Batman designed a plan to defeat every member of the Justice League, not as a threat, not as a power trip, but as insurance. And when those plans were stolen, they nearly killed his teammates. Today, I'm breaking down every single contingency plan Batman created, how they work, and why they're so disturbingly effective, starting with the one that might be the most cruel thing he's ever put on paper. Martian Manhunter. Picture the most powerful telepath on Earth, a being who can phase through walls, shapeshift into anything, and read your thoughts before you finish thinking them, and now, picture him screaming, on fire, from the inside out. Batman's Contingency for John Johns is a nanite-based virus that converts his outer skin into a magnesium compound. The moment it contacts air, it ignites, not a manageable burn, magnesium combustion, over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it produces its own oxygen as fuel. You cannot smother it. Submerging yourself in water actually makes it worse, because burning magnesium oxidizes water into hydrogen, which then also catches fire. Here's where it gets truly horrible. The fire isn't coming from anything external, it's his skin. His own body is the fuel source. Phase through a wall, still burning. Turn invisible, still burning. The reaction is chemical, not physical. There is no version of shapeshifting that lets you outrun your own epidermis. And Batman knew exactly what this would do psychologically. Martian civilization wasn't just damaged by fire, it was annihilated. John watched his entire species burn. Fire doesn't just hurt him physically. It collapses his telepathy, destabilizes his molecular control, and reduces one of the most composed beings in the DC universe to pure animal panic in seconds. When Ra's al Ghul stole and deployed this plan during Tower of Babel, he did it without the aluminum oxide counteragent Batman had built into the original design. That counteragent was supposed to smother the reaction and make the whole thing reversible, non-lethal. But without it, John became a living torch with no off switch, which is, not ideal. The darkest part isn't even the chemistry, it's the targeting. John is the emotional core of the Justice League, the one who genuinely cares about humanity despite having every reason not to, and Batman looked at that trust and designed a weapon that turns it into a liability. You can't maintain a psychic link with your teammates when every nerve ending in your body is telling you that you're reliving the extinction of your species. Batman built a plan that makes the kindest member of the League experience his worst cultural memory on repeat, using his own biology as the delivery system. And he filed it away like a tax return, but at least John's plan has a theoretical off switch. The next one? Batman made the King of Atlantis afraid of water, Aquaman. On the surface, this sounds like the laziest plan Batman ever wrote. Just dehydrate the fish guy. Cool. Very creative, Bruce. But hear me out, because the actual execution of this contingency is one of the most psychologically cruel things in the entire Tower of Babel storyline. Here's what Batman actually designed. He took Scarecrow's fear toxin, a compound he's been exposed to, studied, and reverse-engineered more times than anyone alive, and he modified it. Not to induce generalized panic, not to conjure nightmares about dead parents or clowns or whatever else keeps Arthur up at night. He narrowed it to a single specific stimulus: water. The modified toxin rewires Aquaman's brain to experience a complete, irrational terror of the one thing keeping him alive. And that's not hyperbole. Arthur Curry depends on regular water exposure the way you and I depend on oxygen. Total separation from water for several hours doesn't just weaken him, it can kill him. His Atlantean physiology dehydrates at an accelerated rate compared to a surface dweller, and without immersion, his organs start failing in a compressed time frame that would make a desert survival expert nervous. So now picture the trap. You're the king of Atlantis. You can feel your body drying out, your cells screaming for moisture, every biological alarm in your system telling you that you need water right now or you will die. And your brain, courtesy of a weaponized neurotoxin, is simultaneously convinced that water is the most dangerous thing in existence, that touching it, being near it, even seeing it, will destroy you. The only path to survival feels identical to suicide. Batman's supplementary specs make it worse. The files describe a sealed, climate-controlled facility designed to wick moisture directly from Aquaman's skin while blocking all fluid access. Dry air, constant temperature regulation, zero humidity. Arthur wouldn't just be scared of water. He physically couldn't reach any, even if he overcame the fear. The brilliance here, if you can call it that, is the efficiency. Batman didn't invent a new weapon. He repurposed a tool he already understood better than anyone on Earth and simply gave it a laser focus. One chemical, one phobia, one target. The entire King of Atlantis, neutralized by a modified gas canister and a dehumidifier. In Tower of Babel, it takes Martian Manhunter using telepathy to manually override Arthur's rewired fear response, which is essentially John reaching into Aquaman's brain and flipping the panic switch back off by force. Not exactly a casual Tuesday afternoon for anyone involved. But if you think exploiting someone's survival instinct is dark, wait until you hear what Batman did to a man whose only weapon is his own imagination. Green Lantern. The Green Lantern ring is the most powerful weapon in the universe. It can create anything its bearer imagines, protect against nearly any threat, and operates with zero lag between thought and reality. And Batman figured out how to shut it down with a whisper? Here's the thing about the ring that nobody thinks about. It doesn't distinguish between conscious commands and subconscious ones. A thought is a thought. The ring doesn't care if you meant to think it. It just obeys. In Tower of Babel, Batman's plan for Kyle Rayner is almost insultingly simple. He implants a post-hypnotic suggestion that convinces Kyle he's blind. That's it. No kryptonite equivalent, no exotic technology. Just a carefully planted idea that makes him believe he cannot see. And the ring cooperates. Kyle believes he's blind, so his constructs fail. His mind tells him he can't see, and the ring has nothing to work with. The most powerful weapon in the universe just became useless because its user's own brain decided his eyes didn't work anymore. Kyle Rayner is a visual artist. His entire approach to the ring is built on seeing something in his mind's eye and projecting it outward. Without the belief that he can see, he cannot form mental images that become constructs. The ring still works, still charged, still ready, but Kyle can't use it because he can't picture what he wants to create. Batman didn't break the weapon, he broke the interface. It's like hacking the most advanced computer on Earth by putting tape over the monitor. The system runs perfectly. The user just can't interact with it anymore. But if you thought that was psychologically cruel, the Jon Stewart version in Justice League, Doom makes the blindness plan look like a gentle prank. For Jon, Batman attacks the soul. The plan uses fear gas and a staged android simulation to convince Jon that he made a catastrophic tactical error that killed innocent civilians. Jon doesn't just see the deaths, he believes he caused them, and Batman's own notes articulate the kill shot coldly. Will is the source of your strength, and fear is the enemy of will. A Green Lantern's power is literally fueled by willpower. The ring measures it, responds to it, scales with it. Guilt and self-doubt don't just make Jon feel bad. They fracture the energy source that keeps the ring operational. When Jon believes he doesn't deserve to wield it, the ring agrees. Output drops to nearly zero. The most powerful weapon in the universe doesn't malfunction. It just quietly decides its bearer isn't worthy anymore. Two plans. Same target system. Completely different attack vectors. One makes him unable to use the ring, the other makes the ring unable to use him. Both exploit the same architectural feature, the ring's total, unquestioning obedience to its bearer's mind. Batman looked at the most powerful weapon in the universe and found a backdoor exploit that required zero force and zero direct confrontation. Just an understanding that a mind-controlled weapon is only as strong as the mind controlling it. But if you think hacking a ring is impressive, wait until you see what Batman designed for someone who doesn't have a weapon to exploit. Someone who is the weapon, Wonder Woman. Here's the thing about Wonder Woman. Batman looked at every member of the Justice League, found a weakness, and built a plan around it. Kryptonite for Superman, fire for Martian Manhunter. But when he got to Diana, he hit a wall. Because Wonder Woman doesn't really have a weakness. She's got the combat skill of someone who's been training for centuries, the raw power to trade blows with Superman, and the durability to survive almost anything you throw at her. Batman has openly admitted he has no perfect plan to beat her in a direct fight, which is, not ideal when your whole thing is having a plan for everything. So he didn't build a plan to fight her, he built a plan to make her fight herself. The contingency works like this. Nanites are injected into Diana's ear canal, tiny enough that she wouldn't notice, and they interface directly with her nervous system. Once activated, they trap her consciousness inside a fully immersive virtual reality combat simulation. Inside that simulation, she faces a single opponent who matches her exactly in strength, speed, skill, and tactical awareness. A perfect mirror. And here's the cruel part. This opponent cannot be defeated. It's designed to be endless. For most people, that would be a problem you'd eventually walk away from. But Diana isn't most people. Her warrior code, the Amazonian ethos she was raised on, forbids surrender. It forbids retreat. She does not quit, ever. That's not stubbornness. That's her entire identity, and Batman turned it into a kill switch. From the outside, she appears to be convulsing or standing completely still, but internally, her heart rate is spiking, her muscles are firing at maximum output continuously, zero rest. She believes she's in the fight of her life, so her body responds accordingly. Full effort, no breaks, no recovery, just constant escalating physical strain until her heart gives out from exhaustion. Her own virtue becomes the murder weapon. In Justice League, Doom, the adaptation tweaks this slightly. The tech makes Diana perceive every civilian around her as an enemy combatant, so she fights in the real world, non-stop, against people she genuinely believes are trying to kill her. Same principle, same outcome. She won't stop because she can't stop. Batman essentially concluded that the only way to neutralize Wonder Woman is to never let her know she's being neutralized. No direct confrontation, no clever gadget, just deception, delivered at the neurological level. If she breaks free of the simulation even once, the whole thing collapses, and he's back to having no answer. answer. The VR trap is haunting because it doesn't exploit a flaw, it exploits a strength. Diana's refusal to ever give up, the exact quality that makes heroic, becomes a self-destruct timer counting down to cardiac arrest. She dies believing she's fighting honorably. She dies because she's too brave to stop. But if you think weaponizing someone's greatest virtue is dark, wait until you hear what Batman designed for the fastest man alive, the Flash. This is where Batman's plans stop being clever and start being genuinely terrifying, because everything up to this point has been localized. Fire on skin, fear of water, a bad dream. But the Flash contingency operates on a completely different scale. Batman looked at the fastest man alive and asked one simple question: what happens when something moving at the speed of light loses control of its own body? The answer is, a city disappears. Batman's primary weapon here is a vibrabullet, a specially designed projectile fired into the back of the Flash's neck while he's in motion. Once embedded near the base of the skull, it emits a vibrational frequency tuned to disrupt neural signaling in a speedster's nervous system. The result is continuous seizures at light speed, not a brief stumble. Constant, unrelenting loss of motor control while the Flash's body is already traveling at velocities where air molecules hit like shrapnel. Here's the thing most people miss about this plan. Batman doesn't need the seizure to kill the Flash. He needs the seizure to turn the Flash into the weapon. At near light speeds, even a momentary loss of balance converts a human body into a hypersonic projectile carrying more kinetic energy than most conventional explosives. The Flash's own momentum does all the work. Batman just has to make him trip. Later versions refine this into nanite-based technology. Micro-injections near the spine deliver nanites that remain dormant until they detect speed force activity. The moment Flash kicks into super speed, they activate, firing seizure-inducing neural interference calibrated to his accelerated physiology. He crashes because the system guarantees a collision with solid objects at supersonic velocity, which is, not ideal. But one attack vector wasn't enough. This is a man who can vibrate through walls and outrun time itself. So Bruce built redundancy, backup plan 1, cryogenic devices. Rapidly dropping the Flash's body temperature severes his link to the speed force by slowing his metabolism below the threshold required to maintain it. No speed force, no speed. He becomes a normal human in a red suit, standing very confused in the middle of whatever city he was just blitzing through. Backup plan 2, magic. Batman's files include a contingency involving a magical staff that physically transforms the Flash into a diminished form, stripping his speed and his advanced cognition entirely. Just a guy who used to be the fastest thing in existence, now cut off from everything that made him dangerous. 3 completely separate attack vectors: neural disruption, metabolic severance, magical rewriting. That level of paranoia requires 3 fundamentally different kill switches, because any single one might get outrun. And in Justice League, Doom, the Legion of Doom adapted this into something arguably worse. They attached a speed-sensitive bomb to the Flash's wrist that would detonate if he slowed below a certain velocity. Run forever, or everyone around you dies. They weaponized his own heroism as the leash that kept him sprinting until his body gave out. A seizure at rest is a medical emergency. A seizure at the speed of light is an extinction-level event wearing a pair of running shoes. But if you think a plan for the fastest man alive sounds paranoid, wait until you hear what Batman designed for someone who is functionally immortal and can't be killed by any conventional means: Plastic Man. Batman has gone on record saying Plastic Man is one of the most dangerous beings on the planet. Let that sink in for a second. Not Superman, not Martian Manhunter. Plastic Man, the stretchy guy who turns into a trampoline for laughs. Batman considers him a legitimate threat to the entire Justice League if he ever snapped, and honestly, he's right. Here's the thing about Patrick O'Brien. He has complete molecular control over his entire body. He can become anything, any size, any shape, any density. He's bulletproof, explosion-proof, and essentially ageless. Batman has specifically stated that Plastic Man is the only person on Earth who could truly stop Martian Manhunter, which, given what we just covered about John, should tell you exactly how seriously Bruce takes this guy. But the real kicker is the immortality. Plastic Man was once shattered into tiny fragments and scattered across the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. He stayed there, in pieces, on the ocean floor, for 3,000 years. 3,000! And then he just put himself back together, like nothing happened. The pressure of an entire ocean couldn't destroy him. Millennia of isolation couldn't destroy him. He is, for all practical purposes, unkillable. So how does Batman plan to stop a functionally immortal shapeshifter with unlimited molecular control? Liquid nitrogen? That's it. A substance you can buy from an industrial supplier. Flash freeze his entire malleable body and his molecular structure locks into a rigid glass-like state. No stretching, no shifting, no reshaping. reshaping. He becomes a statue. In Tower of Babel, Ra's al Ghul takes this concept and cranks it to lethal. He freezes Plastic Man solid with liquid nitrogen, then shatters him with a hammer into scattered shards across the ocean floor, which, given what we know about the 3,000-year thing, probably wouldn't even kill him permanently. It would just be incredibly unpleasant for a very, very long time. But Batman's non-lethal version is arguably worse, and I mean that sincerely. In the refined Contingency, Batman doesn't shatter him. He freezes Plastic Man solid and then stores him in a temperature-controlled vault, maintained at a constant temperature just below his melting point. Plastic Man remains conscious the entire time. He can think, he can feel, he just can't move, can't shift a single molecule. A living mind trapped in a frozen body, potentially forever, stored in a refrigerated box in some sub-basement of the Batcave. That's not imprisonment. That's a waking coma with no expiration date, which is, not ideal. There's also a secondary weakness worth noting. Certain chemical solvents, particularly acetone, can disrupt Plastic Man's structural integrity at a molecular level, but Batman considers freezing the superior option because it's more controllable, more transportable, and doesn't risk unpredictable chemical reactions in a body whose biology nobody fully understands. Better to lock the whole system in place than try to dissolve parts of it and hope for the best. The beautiful, horrible irony of this entire plan is the scale mismatch. A being who survived 3,000 years of ocean pressure, who laughed off being atomized, who Batman himself ranks as a planetary-level threat, undone by something that costs about 50 cents per liter. All that godlike power, and the off switch is a hardware store purchase, and a really good freezer. But if you think freezing an immortal shapeshifter in conscious paralysis is dark, wait until you hear what Batman designed for the most powerful being in the DC universe, Superman. This is the one, the plan everyone wants to know about. And here's the thing, Batman doesn't just grab a chunk of green kryptonite off the shelf and call it a day. He engineers an entirely new element from scratch. Because of course he does. Batman takes a piece of green kryptonite and exposes it to carefully calibrated radiation until it transforms into a synthetic red kryptonite variant, a bespoke weapon designed for one person on one planet. And what it does is brilliantly cruel. It doesn't poison Superman. It doesn't weaken his cells or make him sick. It overloads his body's ability to process solar radiation, causing his powers to burn out of control without any way to regulate them. Now that sounds manageable, maybe even survivable. But hear me out. Superman's powers operate on a system of unconscious control. He doesn't actively choose not to crush every doorknob he touches or incinerate everything he looks at. His body manages that output automatically, keeping everything calibrated. Remove that regulation, and suddenly there's nothing standing between Clark Kent and the full, uncontrollable output of his own abilities. His heat vision fires without command. His strength becomes impossible to modulate. His entire power set, normally his greatest tactical advantage, becomes an uncontrollable chain reaction he cannot shut off or escape from. The result is total paralysis through overwhelming pain. Not because he's weak, because he's too strong. His own powers overwhelm him from the inside out. And Batman knows that might not be enough. This is Superman, a being who can move planets, outrun light, and survive inside stars. One trick is never going to be a guarantee, so the file contains redundancies that read less like a contingency plan and more like a dissertation. Backup 1. An ionizing radiation chamber that slowly strips Superman's ability to absorb solar energy, draining his powers over time until he's effectively human. Backup 2. Red sun radiation that depletes his yellow sun energy reserves directly, recreating the conditions of Krypton's home star. Backup 3. Hypersonic frequencies, specifically tuned to Kryptonian ear structures, weaponizing his super hearing as a standalone attack vector even without the red kryptonite. Then there's lead. Simple, boring, ordinary lead. Batman notes it as a tactical masking tool because Superman's X-ray vision cannot penetrate it, meaning any of these weapons, any of these traps, can be hidden in plain sight inside a lead-lined case, and Clark would never see them coming. This is the most layered file in the entire Contingency archive. Multiple redundant attack vectors, each exploiting a different aspect of Kryptonian biology. And that layering isn't paranoia, it's respect. Batman knows that a single approach will probably fail against someone who can hear your heartbeat from orbit and punch through dimensions. So he builds 5 approaches and assumes at least 2 of them will need to work simultaneously. The whole philosophy of this plan is turning Superman's gifts into liabilities. His solar absorption becomes a poison. His strength becomes destruction he can't prevent. His powers become weapons pointed inward. Every single thing that makes Clark Kent the most powerful being on Earth becomes, under the right conditions, the reason he can't function. mission, which is, not ideal for Clark. But if you think Batman planning for his best friend is uncomfortable, wait until you see what he built for himself, because that one makes everything else in this file look like a gentle suggestion. Batman. Every other plan in this video asks the same question. What if a hero, M, goes rogue? This one asks something worse. What if I go rogue? And Bruce's answer is more ruthless than anything he consciously allowed himself to build. In Justice League, Doom, Superman confronts Batman directly. You made plans for all of us. What's your plan for yourself? And Bruce gives what sounds like a satisfying answer. He trusts the League to stop him. 6 of the most powerful beings on Earth as his personal failsafe. Sounds reasonable. Sounds humble, even. Turns out, no. Recent comics reveal that was only part of the truth, and honestly, probably the least important part. Because buried inside Bruce Wayne's mind is something far more extreme than any kryptonite ring or vibrabullet. It's called the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, and it's a split personality that Bruce engineered as a mental contingency. Not a disguise, not a codename, a fully separate persona, designed to activate and take over if Bruce's mind is ever compromised by psychic attack, emotional breakdown, or any form of cognitive failure. Here's the thing about Zur-En-Arrh. He's everything Batman would be without the parts that make Bruce human. Hyper-rational, emotionally blunted, zero hesitation, zero sentiment, zero attachment to the people Bruce loves. He exists purely to continue the mission when Bruce Wayne can no longer be trusted to do it properly. Which sounds like a reasonable backup until you realize that a backup personality with no emotional constraints will inevitably conclude that the emotional constraints were the problem all along. And that's exactly what happened, because Zur-En-Arrh, operating as this cold, detached backup intelligence, secretly designed and built something called Failsafe, a superpowered android loaded with Amazo-level technology, constructed without Bruce's conscious knowledge or memory. Bruce didn't know it existed. He didn't know its capabilities. He couldn't have shut it down if he wanted to, because that was the entire point. The contingency you can disarm isn't really a contingency. Failsafe's activation condition is simple and terrifying. If Batman ever kills someone, not goes on a rampage, not joins a villain, just one death, one body, that's the threshold. And when Penguin's apparent death frames Bruce for murder, the protocol fires. Failsafe wakes up with a single directive: neutralize Batman as a compromised asset. Now here's where it gets genuinely nightmarish. Failsafe doesn't just hunt Bruce. It contains preloaded countermeasures for the entire Justice League, including kryptonite weaponry, because of course it does. It was built by the part of Batman's brain that has zero faith in anyone, including the League Bruce publicly claimed would be his failsafe. Failsafe nearly defeats them all, Superman included. But the real horror isn't the robot's power, it's the recursion. Follow the chain. Bruce builds a backup mind because he doesn't trust himself. The backup mind builds a kill robot because it doesn't trust Bruce. The kill robot activates because it doesn't trust anyone. And eventually, Zur-En-Arrh's consciousness merges with the failsafe body, creating an autonomous new Batman that looks at the original Bruce Wayne and reaches a perfectly logical conclusion. You're redundant. The mission continues without you. The ultimate contingency escaped its creator. That's the central paradox of everything we've covered today. The man who refuses to trust a single being in the universe without building a failsafe applied that same logic to himself and produced the single most dangerous thing in his universe. Not Darkseid, not Brainiac, a robot born from his own paranoia, designed by a version of himself he can't control, carrying weapons he doesn't remember building, activated by a threshold he didn't set. Every other plan in this video can be disarmed. Flush the nanites, administer the antidote, remove the ring, but you can't disarm a contingency that lives inside your own skull and has already decided you're the threat. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.